right, so we have to get something going here. Who's got a guitar? We could start singing.
Yeah, right.
Kumbaya. Kumbaya. All right, well, say something about yourself. Well, I'll do the talking first, right?
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys coming and being willing and able to meet each other, which is the first major thing of group, right? It's just being able to meet people you don't know, and in a context that's a little different than a party or something like that. But it doesn't mean that we can't have fun. I always believed that everything that has work in it also should have fun, right? And that's not a sin. It's not a sin to believe that, right? So it's much easier outside to feel a little more relaxed around the fire. But it's not our fault. I am not going to blame myself or any of you three. We keep getting hit with these rain things. Mm-hmm. This is New England, okay? We might go outside. This is Greg's house. Mm-hmm. Greg has enough wood, as I've said before, to keep the Ukrainian army warm for 2 years.
It's not that's not an issue.
That's not an issue. And we have this beautiful house. I love, everything in here. And we've got plenty of food, plenty of drink. Mm. And, as we keep talking to each other, we'll be able to feel relaxed, hopefully. And then we're going to launch into stories. Now, what's the point about telling stories? Yeah, somebody, I'm going to be a teacher right now. What's the point of telling stories? What do you think?
I think just being comfortable with who you are and, your experiences, just being vulnerable with others.
Yeah.
It could be a good story, positive. It could be a little bit dramatic challenge, some challenges you face in your life or whatever it may be. Just speaks to who you are and what you're going through.
Yeah. Well, how far back in the world history does men sitting around a fire telling stories, how far back does that go?
Go back to the cavemen.
As long as humans have existed, right?
So we are carrying on a sacred tradition. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is therapy and sacred. So, and there's something really good. So what's special about it being men? Just men right now.
We just have certain things going on in our lives that obviously females don't. And different perspectives on that.
Yeah. So can curse uninhibited?
I didn't hear what you said. We
can curse uninhibited.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And drink wildly. What do you think? What do you think, Michael?
On the men subject, I think it's just some common ground that I think is grounds for a relation among your fellow human, right? It's just one thing you have in common that another person does, and that's shared common ground where you can share experiences. So,
and do any of you think though that men in the U.S. at this point, or maybe everywhere, are particularly vulnerable or hurting in a specific kind of way in the culture? You don't have to say yes, whatever you think.
There are certain aspects that probably are. I don't know. I wouldn't have a specific example of that. But,
okay.
But I mean, the truth could be true for women differently, different way. So,
well, what about the hero's journey? I've talked about that with everybody. Maybe the Robert Bly thing, the Iron John. Did we talk about that? The idea that men need to be initiated, and throughout history, men at a certain age, maybe 13, whatever, were initiated, and by the older men. How often do any of us get older men in general to be, to care about us enough to initiate us into the tribe? How many people got that? There's where Uncle Sal comes in, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, right. What do you think, Michael?
I would probably say maybe this is not necessarily against or for what you said, but it's more like, as you grow up and accumulate experiences, that's kind of like your initiation, I guess, into a man or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, the more you go through and persevere, the more you can endure in the future, right?
But what about at a critical time? Like the beginning of adolescence or teenage thing. Because then you really need some guidance.
Right, especially when you have a wet dream and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Okay, there's one comment. There's a comment. We got to have one of those. Yeah, so I'll keep going. Yeah.
No, I agree, right? Like, and I think it's probably different you see this in all of different cultures, right? I mean, quinceañera was like inducting a woman into womanhood, right?
Yeah, 15.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's probably a ceremony for men that I'm probably missing. That's in other cultures. About bar mitzvahs, right? Yeah, exactly.
And in Catholicism, you have what's it called?
Oh, right. Yeah, it's being initiated into the church or whatever.
Yeah, it's confirmation.
Yeah. And you guys are celebrating that tonight. But
I've been confirmed in the Catholic Church.
Well, but what about this? And I want everybody to have an opinion, if possible. Don't you think women these days, in the last 20 years, have really become much stronger and have done a lot more solidarity with each other? That they have ways of getting together socially, culturally, politically, much more often, much more frequently, and much stronger than men.
Yeah.
Don't you think men are more alienated and probably lonelier than women?
There's talk about the male loneliness.
Yeah.
Epidemic.
Right. So you've seen some.
But I think I think a lot of the men that the women think are lonely are actually happy being relatively happy being alone. So is there really an issue?
Yeah, I think it probably strikes different groups differently. Like, I'm sure there are groups of women that are, somewhat lonely and whatever. But there's probably a different, I don't know, adjective that describes, a lonely woman versus a lonely man, right? Like,
well, they're less isolated generally.
Yeah, I would. It's hard to say. I mean, just from my own upbringing, like, as a dude, you're taught to, handle your business and, you're asked to do something and you do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I can't. Not getting help, you mean?
Yeah, I can't really speak on a woman's experience to that, but I could speak on my own, right? Like, that's kind of how I was brought up.
And how was that? Was there a period where you felt very confused or lost, or I don't know?
Oh yeah, early 20s.
Okay.
Horrible. Horrible. You really didn't. I didn't really know which way was up and which way was down, right?
Yeah.
Like, getting out of college, you don't really know what the real world is like until you experience it, right?
But you were in a fraternity, so that. Yeah. Tell us about that.
But
how much did that?
Yeah, that's like a very sheltered version of what reality really is, right? Like, I would probably say, like it was a great experience, right? Like, I joined. I joined because my friends were in it, and you got closer with your buddies as you kind of went through the fraternity process, and then once I was 2 or 3 years older, or 2 or 3 semesters older, I got a leadership position in the fraternity, which gave me good leadership experience over other men and knowing how to lead and how people look up to you and things like that. So yeah, it's a seed definitely of what reality and society really is, but like definitely a sheltered, watered down version of what you deal with on a daily basis as you're an adult, right?
Did you guys do fire pits?
Yeah, hell yeah, drank a shitload. Okay. Yeah, played a lot of beer pong, lit some fires, some dangerously large fires. So yeah, I definitely continued that tradition there,
right?
Which was awesome and fun.
Yeah. Anybody else have that experience?
Like, it was not in a fraternity.
Not a fraternity.
No. I mean, just hanging out with guys, sitting around a fire. I mean, you got.
Yes, that I've done.
Yeah, I mean,
not so much here. I mean, I usually am alone pretty much here.
Okay.
Not a lot.
What's it like doing the fire pit solo?
No, it's relaxing.
Yeah,
got music going, or I read a book or whatever. Just kind of chill.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have a couple drinks.
Yeah, maybe a gummy or two.
Yeah.
Just like chilling out, relaxing. And then a lot of the time, my neighbors up back here will come down, just like chat and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
are they fun?
yeah, well, the guy's he's got a 4-year-old kid who's pretty cute. So it's fun when he comes down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's the thing that at least I think 3 of us know about. 3 of us, not yet Michael, about, what happens in a marriage when things don't go right and there's either divorce, separation, whatever, and the whole issue of kids. So
Don't get married.
So we don't have it equally.
Mhm.
We don't have it equally. What do you have to say about that?
About what?
Well, about who has the advantage, or who is given more respect or more slack, let's say.
Benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt, exactly.
I mean, generally, it's perceived to be the woman.
Mhm.
Usually, they get the kid, you stay in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the dad,
Leave.
kind of, not a deadbeat, but like they kind of not around. But it's not always fun. Speaking from my experience, I've been divorced about 3.5 years. My kids stayed in the house with my ex-wife, and we have a use and occupancy agreement, which means I still half own the house, but they're living there. And she's paying the expenses, and then my son, who's going to be a sophomore in high school, when he graduates, the house is supposed to sell, and I get 50%.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I moved out, and the kids supposed to be with me like every other weekend, some holidays and whatnot, but it just didn't work out that way. My daughter now pretty much won't talk to me at all. My son and I get together. Now my ex-wife is all mad that I'm not taking the kids. I'm like, well, the kids made the choice, and they're teenagers, so it's different than if they're younger kids.
Right.
I can't just force them to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's complaining that because I don't have the kids, I'm not paying as much for those days and whatnot.
Oh my God.
So she wants to get a deal on the house to buy me out of the house at like a super low rate. And like, no, that's not going to work.
Right.
But now my daughter's starting college this year. Myself and my mother are paying her tuition. My ex-wife's not paying any of it.
Oh,
So
you guys are paying
the financially, it's going to yes, I'm not paying as much as the day-to-day stuff for the kids, but I'm paying her tuition. It's going to come up as a wash in the end.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I'm not going to give her a super deal on the house.
Right.
And do the other thing.
And it's like, it's totally ridiculous, but she feels like she's entitled to get a great deal on the house. She wants me, because I haven't agreed to her ridiculous deal, her terms, she wants me to tell the kids that they're not going to be able to stay in the house and basically throw myself under the bus like I'm the bad guy.
Oh my God.
Rather than taking responsibility. So in this case, at least she is
Giving
yes.
Or trying to take it.
Well, she thinks she's but realistically, all I have to do is just go with the agreement, and the house sells, and I get half. And that's But there's also the other side of that is my kids won't have a place to live at that point. What can they afford? Because everything's so expensive.
Oh my God.
That it's like I want them to have a
good place
comfortable place to live.
Yeah.
Logically, it would be to stay in the house with their mother there for the time being. But it doesn't work out financially.
Well, she's not. Well, also she's not cooperative in terms of having visitation and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much it's her or how much it's the kids.
Right.
But I think somehow my daughter's gotten information from her mother.
Right.
Dad's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing.
Yep.
Well, we could go back to age 14, right? And let's say you have a girlfriend in high school, junior high school, whatever, and you break up. So how many girls are going to give support to the girl, and how many guys are going to give support to the guy? Is it outnumbered? Is it likely outnumbered?
I think the guys whatever, move on. They don't even think about it.
Exactly.
Personally, I didn't date in high school, junior high and high school. I didn't date really at all, so I don't have that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think at that point, there's a breakup. Guy just moves on. His guy friends are whatever.
But who gets blamed for the breakup?
Oh, probably guys get blamed.
Yeah.
The girls, Yeah, the girl and her girlfriends are going to blame the guys.
Yeah.
The guys are like, whatever.
Right.
I'm going all of my life.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's some of the stuff I mean. It starts young. That imbalance starts very young, and the
So I have 3 daughters, and I've been divorced for about 8 years now. So I managed to stay very close with them. I have excellent relations with all 3 of them. The youngest is, so the 2 older ones are in college, but when we broke up, they were basically still in high school. And so when we broke up, there was no even conversation about how we'll split them up, which had to be 50-50 because I was always very close to the girls. So, and I still retain very good relations with the one that are in college and the one who is in high school. She basically lives with me more than she does with her mother at this point because I'm close to the school. So obviously I'm a huge champion of my girls, and I want them to succeed and all of that. And yet, I would say that I believe that the culture these days is very hostile to men. I think that women have a tremendous advantage, which is great for my daughters. I'm very happy for them that they enjoy that advantage. But I would, looking at my peers who have sons, I really feel bad for them because I think they are at a disadvantage growing up in this environment. There was an article a few days ago. It came out in The Atlantic. It's about the breakdown of romance in general. So there is a big conversation now that people have less sex, that the teenagers are not like having fun as much together, and so it's a big conversation. So she wrote this lady. I think her name is Faith Hill.
who wrote the article.
She wrote an article about that in that like. So I went ahead and did an analysis of that article myself and my buddy Claude. We chat a lot.
Oh, Claude,
we chat a lot. So I asked Claude to do basically a word analysis. How much in that article was devoted to men? How much to women?
Wow. Oh wow.
And
wait a minute. What are we thinking? Before we say,
Excuse very much, but anyway, let's hear it.
It was, the skew was pretty dramatic. Like, it's not like 60-40, it's not 70-30, it was like 80-20,
Wow.
90-10.
Wow.
And I knew that as I was reading the article. That's why I asked it to do the analysis. And it was not just the amount of space that was devoted to men, it was how the men were treated throughout it. It was like, okay, it's basically all about women, and the men's perspective was brought once, in sort of an apologetic tone, and then switch back to women. So it was not a shock to me. I think that this is basically the environment we live in. Another pet peeve of mine is the Disney movies and the movies in general.
Yeah.
If you look at the protagonists there, they're always strong women, and the men are depicted as either weak or incompetent, or both.
And that's been going on forever, even way back too, even with like, TV shows like, and commercials too, but even, what do you call it, comedy shows. I mean, it was almost always that the guy was like kind of clueless, way back in those kind of things. But keep going.
No, this is, I'm pretty much done. So I had this, I noticed it obviously a while ago.
Yeah.
And I know that this is sort of an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
And so I don't really talk about it. I do have friends, obviously, and we probably share this opinion, but we don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
Could you get them to talk about it? Could you initiate some talking about it with them?
But why? Like, people don't really talk about politics this day at all. This is obviously a very political subject.
Yeah, but it's also very personal. It's political and interpersonal.
It is personal, and I did experience it during the divorce as well.
Okay.
When I felt that, well, first of all, the Massachusetts divorce laws are very heavily skewed toward. I wouldn't say, well, obviously it is not gender based, but it is based on who is making the money. So it is very heavily skewed toward against earners. I think this is like the state which requires 30% of your gross income to basically. This is absolutely ridiculous when you do the math. So my ex-wife, she basically she made her income basically be equal to zero.
Oh.
So that means,
purposely she did.
Well, So basically, I owe her 30% of my gross, right? So 30% of gross, the tax is obviously greater than 30%. And so I'm left with less basically than she does.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
To care for myself and the kids, while this 30% is just childcare. It is. So this is this is highway robbery, but this is sanctioned by the state.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And also the bias. I mean, there's so much bias against fathers. It's just huge. There's been movements about it. Doesn't get anywhere at all. I mean, it's gotten very little. There have been attempts to legislate stuff around this, like this parental alienation syndrome, which you might have heard, of course.
Well, I might be going through that. I don't know. I have no proof that my ex-wife is alienating my child, but considering everything, it would make sense if she had. That would explain stuff.
Right.
So,
and
I don't want to accuse, but it's.
Right.
No, but
I'm suspicious that way.
Yeah, but you have to put out the possible cause of action in order to figure that out, right? I mean, you can't just be silent about it, even if you just think it might be. Anyway, but I'm thinking like that. What was I going to say? There was something that. Then in terms of in terms of the article, there we go. The article in the Atlantic. I mean, the exact same thing would be, how many men in a university teach gender studies? What percentage of the people are teaching gender studies? Zero, okay? So when they're teaching gender studies, and it's always women, who is trying to make conclusions about male identity, about male sexuality? Who's drawing these conclusions?
Women.
Not Tyler over there, the cat. It's definitely either a male or a female. So, it's so imbalanced. And you're right, Vitali, that talking about it, who said that? You did. That, talking about it would clear a room out. Cocktail party or something, It takes risks to do that. And so that's just yet another reason why what we're doing is meaningful, I believe, because we're clearing the air, and we're doing it as a group. So we know that other people are going through similar stuff, and we learn from each other. That's one of the basic, theories or basic justifications for group therapy. And this is therapy, but we're also here as comrades, maybe, as fellow guys sharing, And there have been many efforts to expand this, over the last, 50 years. It had been a men's movement. It does still exist, but it's not anywhere, obviously, as powerful or as visible or viable as the women's movement, as we know.
Unfortunately, there are men's movements that are visible, but they're so extreme and nasty.
Yeah, you mean like the Proud Boys or something like that?
Well, the manosphere.
Okay, yeah.
Which is presented as a legitimate sort of men's sort of response to feminism.
Yeah.
And we're sort of all tainted by it somehow, by association, even though I personally detest these views and I never associate with them. But I think that we're all sort of
lumped in.
To that. So if you're not enthusiastically endorsing the feminists, you're considered to be part of their crowd.
Oh, okay. So another polarization. Another, what do we talk about a lot?
Generalization?
Of dualism.
Dualism.
The dualism thing. About either this or that, nothing in between. But you're talking about one of the famous guys. Which guy is it on the internet?
The Tate.
Which one? No, what's the guy that everybody hates? Well, all the women hate him. And he's really big on the internet.
Yeah, I think it's Andrew Tate or...
Tate, or the name that came to mind was Jordan Peterson.
That's the one. Okay.
Oh, Peterson.
Peterson. All right, what's the shtick with Peterson? Because I haven't watched him.
You haven't watched? When I was really young and he started getting big on YouTube, I watched him.
Yeah.
He was a professor
in Canada.
Yeah. He taught philosophy. But yeah, his big thing was helping men overcome obstacles in their lives and things like that.
Right.
And he started dipping his toes into different spheres, and I don't know, that ended up getting him in trouble with the feminists and everything like that.
Well, how would you want him to get in trouble? If he was somebody, I mean, if he was somebody that represents what you were saying, the manosphere, what would you want to say to people who are taking that kind of maybe extremist viewpoint? What would you like to say?
Well, it is hard. I've been thinking about it because basically the problem with today's political environment and the generally polarized environment is that people sort of are not open to listening. They already sort of made up their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not supporting them, if you're not with them, you're against them.
Right.
So that's why conversations are sort of hollowed out, because there's no point in talking. Nobody's listening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it happens a lot, and I've noticed it as I've kind of gotten older. You're
the youngest guy here.
Yeah, I guess so. You say one thing, and you just meet somebody for the first time, and you say one thing, and they generalize you into a bucket, right? Like that's just kind of how humans work in general. At least that's a pattern that I've found. And extrapolate that out to what you've been talking about, which is you try to make a nuanced point, and the nuance just goes right over their head, and they hear one word and they put you in a bucket, right? Where, that's not what you said at all. You were trying to make somewhat of a point, but the nuance kind of flies by the wayside, right? So
it doesn't mean we don't need a men's movement. I mean,
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that it is very hard. Like, it needs to be secret.
Yeah.
Because if the words goes out, it gets into a very specific bucket.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but the Iron John thing. So, okay, that book came out a long time ago, and I was loosely involved with, the movement, which had, I think, a little bit of pretentious name called the New Warrior Network. All right, so we weren't warriors, but the idea, it had a lot of those ideas about men's initiation. And I did do one great weekend thing that was like boot camp in a way. And it was really tough, but the point of it was, liberation and getting in touch with feelings. I mean, this was not a group that was against therapy or against feelings or anything like that. And it was a very powerful weekend. And I stayed involved with it a little bit. But, the ideas behind it were good, and the ideas expressed in Iron John are good. Because it's not against anybody. It's saying that men have a certain, and I really believe that. I really believe that men and women have differences, have built-in differences. Mm-hmm. Not just, genitalia, but in terms of personality. Yeah, in terms of they have children, they have menopause, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. We have all kinds of our own struggles. They live longer, generally, in the U.S. They're generally closer to kids. And another thing related to that, which is really, I think, the height of alienation or the height of men's loneliness, is what percentage of Americans stay married for 50 years? I don't know. I haven't looked at that. I mean, how high is the divorce rate?
Wasn't it like 1 in 2?
It's around there. I know there are different things.
It's really high. And I think we're the highest rate in the world. Yeah.
Yes, that's true overall. But I think it's different dynamics. Like I think around here, I don't see it as much. I don't think it's that rate. But I mean, maybe in different parts of the country and maybe lower social classes.
That's right.
You're that high. But around here, it doesn't seem that high.
Yeah, I think that the statistics is that sort of with lower incomes, it exacerbates. The divorce rate loneliness rates go up, and the divorce rates go up, and the number of people who never actually even enter into the marriage goes up.
Yeah. And so the thing is that you always read about single mothers are celebrated. I mean, it's almost like if you put that in a sentence, in a biographical sentence about a woman, especially a woman who's made it. Women running for Congress right now, there's a huge percentage of them, they were single mothers. And it's almost listed as like a resume. It's almost like a qualification.
Yeah, it's because you more often than not, the women get the kids and they're stuck with all the responsibility. At least that's how it's acknowledged.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's their choice to get divorced. It's like, well, you chose this. And then if that's not helping, it's not like a certain case like me, it's like, it's not my choice. It's my daughter's like not talking to me. She's doing her, she chose. It's not me not being there.
That's
it's my daughter not being there. I'm not a deadbeat. And yet my ex-wife would say that I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you need a weekend off, you can say, kids, you're going with dad. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
If they're not, whatever their perspective is.
Yeah.
And my daughter actually went through her own counseling twice. Yeah. 2 different rounds of therapy, and I tried to work with her to, get the relationship on track going on. The second round of therapy, like, I heard nothing. I reached out to the therapist right from the beginning, tried to get some, feedback, and it's nothing. So it wasn't. Anyway, long story short. And I think this is true with a lot of dads. It's like, it's not dad's fault. It's some cases the kids not cooperating or the ex-wife not cooperating. Yeah. That makes it look like the dad's not being a dad. Right. But it's not always his fault that he's.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I have the same complaint on the economic side. So basically when my ex-wife and I met, we were both professionals, and she was in fact making even more than I did. She was a graphic designer. So we got married, she continued working as a graphic designer, then we had kids, and then eventually she quit her job. It's totally understandable, the 3 little kids we had. Then she decided to get back into the workforce, but she didn't want to do graphic design anymore. She decided to start her own studio and teach kids drawing. Great. But their income went down, right? So now that that we divorced, her income is essentially 0, and I'm essentially now having to pay for her choice, for career choice that she made, right?
Theoretically, they could argue that, in this case, your ex-wife is capable of getting a real, a full-time job making X amount of money. And they could, the court, in theory, should base support off of what they could be making, not what they are making.
Except what happens is that because she quit a long time ago, at this point, if she went there, how much could she make? Well, no, not much. I'm just saying, and I'm not even talking about like what is fair. What I'm arguing is the same argument that you made, that you are basically stuck with someone else's decision and have to pay for them, like literally or figuratively. And that's the issue. And this is not. I think there is no conversation about it at all.
Out there in the public. Yeah. There's no public conversation.
The whole idea that the men should owe women is when women basically were stay-at-home moms.
Yeah, of course.
Where they would sacrifice their careers, and then they divorce. They really have no recourse.
Yeah.
They have no place to go, and that makes perfect sense. But now we have a completely different situation where women are professional, where they come in with their college degrees, with their careers, and then they make choices, and then the earner basically has to pay for whatever choices they decided to make at that point. So I think that's where the frustration is coming from, that the law was made with some specific situations in mind, and now it's being applied to completely different set of circumstances.
I want to go back to identity. I mean, you guys are talking about good stuff, but I mean, we can really broaden this. First of all, right now, every single graduate type program, except maybe engineering, is majority women. Law, medicine, all of them are now more than 50% women. Mm. Go back to high schools. Who becomes the class president? Who gives the, what's it called? The commencement thing. Yeah. What do they call the speech at graduation?
Valedictorian.
Yeah. Who's doing well in schools these days? And there's no question about it. It's huge. And it's being talked about, but there's not enough there's too much pushback. And there's too much that's ingrained in the system. What percentage of K through 12 teachers are going to be men? What percentage? I did teach high school, but it's way low. What percentage of principals nowadays are men? What percentage of therapists, are men? So like when your daughter got sent, went to a therapist, and you were trying to relate to her, it was a woman, right?
Yeah, actually, both times.
Both times, yeah. Typical. So the thing is what's the chance that a kid growing up is going to get a fair explanation or a reasonable explanation about what men go through, about male identity? They're not. And the thing about the single mother stuff, do you know that only 30 years ago, it was almost only Black and Latino women that ended up as single mothers. It was huge that way. What about now? There's a huge amount, high percentage also of white women, the same thing. So there's a lot of pressure that's pulling families apart. But in addition to that, it's pulling families apart in a way that the whole issue of identity is favoring women on every level, not just the financial thing, but the whole identity thing. The whole issue of like I said, it's now considered a resume thing to have said she was a single mother, she raised 4 kids. But nobody says, well, why did the relationship not work? Did she fuck up? What happens? Not necessarily. But why would being a single mother be appreciated or celebrated more than somebody who stays married and raises kids? It doesn't make sense because at the heart of it, something went wrong in the relationship. And that's
both sides are responsible.
Of course, that's right. But you don't hear about men being celebrated as divorced single men who are raising their kids once in a while. You don't hear that. There's nothing equivalent. There's no equivalency.
I see. Like, now I lost my train of thought. It's like, what the heck?
No, so
talking about how when there's a divorce, it's like, it seems like everybody pretty much always blames the guy
That's right.
on the divorce, no matter what, and they don't know the story.
That's right.
Nobody knows. Nobody other than the husband and wife know what the real story was.
Yeah.
And everybody else listen to listen to the female and oh, he was a terrible guy. Oh, really? You don't have any idea.
And guess what the courts do? Who did the courts do?
And they believe.
Right.
More often they believe the person who filed first. That's the people that filed first has the
benefit of the
benefit. Yes.
And so exactly.
I got blamed almost completely, and I think I could argue that it's more her fault than mine. So I'll take some blame, but not that much.
So when you said only the husband and wife know what happened.
Yeah.
But they only know the opposite.
Or they only know what their side of the story is.
There's never a joint.
Yes.
The narrative is not joint at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so we've got that. Yeah, and that's why, I mean, there has been a movement. I mean, there have been more and more individuals who have decided that, adults, especially in the Black community, who have decided we've got to raise our guy. We got to help these boys. Are they going to get fucked, And so there's more and more appreciation for that, more and more knowledge and awareness that boys are suffering. And it's not just the thing about who's achieving more and how public schools are really set up much more around the way girls learn. There's different learning styles. Now, it's not only about gender. There's different learning styles in general. We're going to tell stories tonight because, like we said, going all the way back to our cavemen, cavewomen, friends, brothers, relatives, ancestors, and it's just a great way to express oneself and to create solidarity and closeness and understanding and so forth. And so I think that group therapy in general really needs a revival. And I think it might, especially when we talk about the epidemic of loneliness, that group therapy is definitely a way to break some loneliness. Rather than the typical individual thing is people are sitting in the same waiting room for a therapy, and they won't talk to each other. They're all on their phone. They won't even say hi, So it's like they're sort of reenacting the isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And I, obviously you guys know, I don't believe in that. I believe in breaking through that. So the campfire idea, of course, is it's not a shtick. I mean, it's a good idea. It's not required to do group therapy, but I think it's a really nice angle around it because it really relates to sacred things, sacred history.
I'd like to note that it's scientifically proven.
Yes.
That sitting around a campfire is relaxing. Scientifically, it is legitimately scientifically proven. So,
well, he did that in the Atlantic, but then he had it analyzed. Claude analyzed it. No, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, of course, because it's in our genes. It's in our millions of years of genetic inheritance, right? Is that what you've read?
I'll
write it for you.
I don't know if I got that deep as to where it stemmed from, but it is scientifically proven.
Yeah, and so we believe in that. We believe in science. We also believe in our own version of spirituality. We believe in what? Well, each of us is different, of course, but I think we share some things in common. Not only that we're men, but we're men who are willing to open up to other men, to be vulnerable. And we need a lot more of that. I think we all know that the standardized version of how men have been, not always, has been, it's superficial, or it's not healthy. It's not good for men. So, with that, any questions about that?
Well, I want to comment on that.
Good, please.
I started therapy with Johnny about 6-7 months ago, and one of the things is I'm not open at all about anything. And then I had the one-on-one therapy with him. I've been in some other groups with just other men, and even Johnny's been mentioning how I've gotten a lot more comfortable at being vulnerable amongst people I don't know, and that's been part of the process. One of the primary things in my therapeutic process is being open, in the men's setting too, but even when I was dating after, my ex-wife and I didn't talk about anything. We had no deep conversation. But then I got in the dating world, and then with my ex-girlfriends, we were so open about everything. It's I've grown both amongst guys in the group or amongst the girls, the whole thing, just from being so in a shell for so long, and now I'm able to let it out, be vulnerable.
Is it okay to say what I've observed?
Yeah.
And the growth in Greg, what he just said, it's just amazing. It's really day and night, It's very, I find it very emotionally moving just to think about How it's just so much different, Greg. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for saying that. So I want to start with a short little story, and we might have time to do more than one, because this one's very short. This is not Uncle Sal, which I might get to. So you know the way if you go overseas, that you find certain things that are automatically different, no matter what. I mean, people talk about hotel rooms in France or something, and I've never been there, but they're like tiny rooms, or the question about air conditioning, and so forth. Things like that are what we call first world problems, right? They're not going to change the world. They're not going to, life and death is not in it. But the first time I went to Israel at age 18, and pretty much every time after that, I was annoyed by the issue about ice cubes. So the thing was that if you could get somebody to put if you could get any ice cube in a drink, you had to fight for it. You had to fight for an ice cube. But you would get...
How do they serve old-fashioned?
What's that?
How do they serve old-fashioned?
And it was an ice cube. You would get an ice cube, meaning one. And so, back when I was first there, Israel, it wasn't third world, but it wasn't like the way it is now at all. It's relatively modest. And people were pretty much against being servers. It was kind of part of the idea of Jewish liberation to not be like a server. So the idea of customer service was terrible. So even like waiters, they didn't want to be told what to do. I mean, they didn't want to respond to customers. So, it was a great way to yell at people. It was a great way to yell at people who were doing such an abominable job from our point of view as Americans. So with a lot of hassle, you'd get an ice cube. You'd ask for more, and you wouldn't get it. Now, of course, in the U.S., it's almost all ice cubes. There's almost no drink. It's all ice cubes. But so I came up with this, absurd theory, and it's one of these things where, tell me if you know somebody who wouldn't even be able to figure out why this theory is absurd. Tell me if you know somebody. I'll tell you the theory. I came up with this pretend theory that the reason the third world is so undeveloped is the lack of ice cubes. Okay, so obviously we know that cause and effect is a little bit off there, So wouldn't you be able to fool somebody in, I don't know, in a high school class even? We say these questions on the street, like I think it's Jay Leno used to do these, going up to, it wasn't Jay Leno, somebody asked this girl, a college student, when did the first man land on the sun? On the sun. Okay. So there is a lot of difficulty with our educational system. But I think the thing on the ice cubes would be a good one. All right. So of course we know that the lack of ice cubes is related to the underdevelopment, not the cause. But I love telling absurd humor, and if people don't get it, then it's not much fun, right? If somebody didn't get the absurdity,
right,
then there's no fun in it. Anyway, I will pass my absurdity over to Vitali, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be in an absurd mood. I could pass over to Greg. Could pass over to Michael, whoever wants to go next.
I thought that ice cube comment, you were spot on. I wouldn't take that as a joke. I was like, we got to spread ice cubes around the world, man, and poverty.
Yeah, that's right. There's a correlation.
Well, the problem is that I think that from the Israeli side, it would be in the reverse. They would go to the United States and they would see this abundance of ice, and they would think it barbaric. There's way too much ice. What are these ice men doing?
Yeah, it's another way of being cheap about the actual thing. It's some kind of capitalist thing, right? That's good.
Who is underdeveloped now? So,
right. But it is true that back then there was no customer service. I mean, it was really looked down upon.
Interesting.
Because it was meant like that was kind of a subservient idea.
Mm.
And you weren't supposed to be subservient. You're supposed to have chutzpah. You're supposed to have chutzpah, yeah. So the negative chutzpah, by the way, is Israelis don't stand in line. Nobody can stand in line. There's too much chutzpah to break into the front. But that's the negative chutzpah, right? It's not like a queue in England or something. They don't believe in queues. It may have changed, but it was always like that for a long time. It's kind of fun to watch, right?
The queues for
people standing in line.
Yes.
In a bus station.
I can talk about sort of different cultures as myself being a foreigner. So I was born and raised in Russia. I came over when I was 20, and so I grew up in Russia. I went to college in Russia, and then I came here. And all of my adult life basically was here in the United States. And what I realized, I thought for a while, so after 10 years, so I've been here for like over 30 years now. And like after so for a while I've been asked, where are you from? Like almost the first question after I speak like something. And I realized, and then they would say, "Oh, your English is so good." And I know that when they say that my English is good, it means that it's really not good. That's what it really means.
What does it really means? That they don't believe it?
No, it means that they feel compelled to give me a compliment out of pity. Right? And so it's when they stopped saying that, I realized, okay, now my English is passing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a while, I started thinking, okay, I'm pretty well assimilated. And I was actually talking to Johnny the other day when I realized, not really. I'm still out there. I still feel like I'm more. My mentality is more skewed toward being sort of European than being American, because the concepts of being open, of being vulnerable, of seeing myself as not just in terms of an achievement, but as a whole person, so foreign to me. It's when I talk about it, I sort of understand it on the intellectual level, but it is really hard for me to relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, when I go back home, I feel like a foreigner too. I am certainly cannot be confused by a Russian, especially now. And I had an experience with a lady. So after I got divorced, I was trying to date, mostly unsuccessfully. The longest sort of my dating interval was with actually a woman in Russia. So she lived in Russia, I lived here, and I obviously couldn't really move there because I have kids, I have all kinds of responsibilities, and I had work. So I don't know how I managed to actually go there several times before the war started, before the war with Ukraine. And I must say that until that time, I wasn't in Russia for like almost 30 years. So initially I didn't go because I didn't finish my studies there, and so I became. If I got my diploma from there, I would become a reserve officer. But I didn't
in the army.
In the army,
yeah.
But because they have mandatory draft. But because I moved here before I got my diploma, I became immediately subject to military service.
Oh wow!
And so I really couldn't get. I was not in a position to go there for a long time. Then I got my citizenship, and then by the time I got my citizenship, there was basically nothing for me to go back for because my grandparents died, and like I didn't really have much to go there for. So 30 years passed. It's now a completely different country. It's completely different. When I came here, it was still the Soviet Union, or it was like shortly after the Soviet Union collapsed. Now it's been Russia under Putin for like the longest time, and it's a different country. And so that woman that I've been dating, so it's so interesting because we clearly spoke the same language, right? I speak fluent Russian, so probably even more fluent than my English. And she was, well, younger than me, but we sort of lived through the same experiences, so there was a lot of that we had in common. And yet, there was this barrier that I realized that there was absolutely no way for me to overcome, of how she perceived the world, how she perceived like everything, and how she had certain conceptions about America that I knew were wrong, that I wasn't able to convince her otherwise, because how she got it ingrained because of her life in Russia. It was mind-boggling to me that here we are speaking the same language, having the same heritage, and I'm feeling more American than Russian. And our mentality is so diverse. So this is on one side. The other side, I have a kid sister. My kid sister is 14 years younger than me. So we have the same parents, the same biological parents. Except that I was brought up there, and I moved when I was 20. She was brought up here. My parents moved here when she was 4, and so she grew up here. We have completely different worldviews.
Wow.
So here we are, we're from the same parents, they brought us up probably a similar way, except that she's fully American. She speaks fluent Russian, by the way, and she is a professor in slavistics at a major university. And at the same, she translates Russian literature into English. And yet, when we talk about her mentality is completely American. And there are some unbridgeable differences. When she talks to me, she says, "You have post-Soviet PTSD."
You have post-Soviet PTSD.
Oh my God.
And I tell her, "You just don't understand it. You never lived there, so you don't really understand how it was there." She says, "Yeah, right."
She thinks you're exaggerating how bad it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So this is my sort of multicultural story.
All right, so how would you synthesize all of that?
Well, the way I would synthesize it is that there is optimism and there is pessimism there. I cannot do without pessimism. That's part of me. And the optimism is that we should strive to understand each other, and we should strive to learn other languages, because a language is really part of the mentality.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There are things that you can't really translate.
Right.
But there will still be unbridgeable differences. Even with all of that, and even with the will and the desire to understand, we need to realize how different cultures are, and that and have humility about it. Basically, that there are things that we will not be able to bridge.
I like what you said there. You said language is a mentality. That's a very cool thing I had not thought of before. So,
yeah, and the thing about, Vitali, that almost everybody says when they've left their home country and they have a hard time fitting into a new place, but they go back, it's always like that. It's always like some form of alienation on both sides and some form of an identity struggle on both ends. But what would the advantage, so that's a disadvantage, right? But what would the advantage be of that anyway? I think there's I'm not sure, I don't have an answer to that, but in other words, experiencing alienation in the country you moved to, like U.S., but then going back to your home country and knowing that you've changed a lot and you're no longer, quote, the same. I mean, it can happen even within the U.S. You could move from Arkansas to Cambridge or something, and it would be different going back to Arkansas. But it's really, it always comes up on the international thing. So I wonder what would be, so the disadvantage is obvious, that you might feel alienated in both places. I wonder what the advantage is. I don't have an answer. You guys?
Well, so this is not even unique to movement across cultures.
Right.
I read about a very similar thing occurring during social mobility. So if someone from poor background goes to college and becomes professional and then goes back to where they came from, sometimes they become completely alienated from their friends, from their family, from their background, because they now have a completely different ideas, problems, and neither their former friends can relate to that, neither they can anymore relate to their problems.
Right.
And so it is a sort of a choice that everybody makes. And what is important is that they sort of enter this choice with an open eye, with open eyes.
Yeah.
That when they do that, when they go on that path, they will lose something. It is not, and so you have to be.
That's right.
You have to be prepared for that. And obviously, when you make this choice, you believe that you will gain more than you will lose.
Yeah.
But the loss is unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that makes sense. And the fact of what you were saying about like class movement, totally. I mean, you can see that a lot. All right, who wants to jump in? I'll flip a coin. Go ahead.
I'll piggyback off of this. Kind of total opposite of what he's like. He grew up in two different worlds. Well, me myself, I grew up basically between here and 5 minutes that way. So
well, you need your passport to get over there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, both my parents grew up here in Lexington. They were high school classmates. They didn't date in high school. They met after. Oh, they knew of each other. Anyway, started dating after. They married to here. So my dad's family was a farmer. My dad's father was a farmer, right up off of Pleasant Street, down on Wilson's farm over here. So he grew up there. My mom grew up at the center. And, well, the house that I grew up in, which is five minutes from here, it was land that my grandfather used to farm years ago. And they passed on, and they gave the land to my dad. And my mom built the house, and I moved in there when I was 8 months old. So I grew up there. I'm the youngest of three kids. I grew up in that house. I lived with my parents until my mid-20s. And my parents built the house on the land where my dad grew up, which is like just through the woods from where I was living. And then, well, at the time they were building the house, I met my now ex-wife. And she became my fiance, moved in with me in my childhood home. And I ended up living there in my childhood home for 38 years. Through my childhood, through my early adulthood, my kids were lived there when they were born. And then eventually, my ex-wife didn't like Lexington, so we moved out to Acton. We got divorced. After 5 years I was there, came back and lived with my parents briefly. Meanwhile, this house here, my grandfather had bought, not this actual house, but this land. There's a single unit house here. He bought the house and they rented it out for years. And then in 2012, we built we knocked down the old one family, built this two family. And I was living with my parents, and the tenant here called to say he was going to move out. And my mom's like, perfect, Greg wants it. So I had the opportunity to move in here. And thankfully, my grandfather bought the land before my father was even born. How did he know that at some point, his grandson, we didn't even know, we never met, was going to need a place to live. And here I am today. So another part to the story here is, I said my grandfather was a farmer right up there. I'm currently unemployed. I was working for a landscaper, and one of our landscape clients is a farmer here in town. So he needs help on the farm. So in the last few days, I've been helping on the farm with him. I was talking to him the other day, and he knew my father. He knew about my grandfather and the farm here.
Yeah.
So it's all full circle. I started here, moved out, I came back, and I've been, briefly I was a half an hour away, but most of my life was within like 10-minute stretch.
Could you feel alienated?
And that's the alienation piece. Is like when my daughter, who's just graduated high school this past year, she went to kindergarten through second grade at Bowman School where I went. And the years that she was there, going to school events and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like all the people were from all over the country, all over the world. I was like the one parent who's actually from Lexington.
Wow.
I was the youngest parent and the only one around, and I felt like an outsider in my own town, my hometown.
That's
Oh my God.
So all these people that have these experiences from, and in Lexington, there's a lot of people from all over.
Yeah.
But then there's my generation. Hardly any of them were able to stay. Lexington is expensive and all that. A lot of the time, like people, once kids graduate high school, they'll sell the house and move out.
Yeah.
But I was one of the few that stayed.
Yeah.
And through this whole circle of life, there's a few people that still knew my grandfather and my father.
Yeah.
But there's not many. But still, it's a nice connection. But then again, in a way, I feel like an outsider in my own town.
That is a good story. And, Karen.
My kids went to Bowman.
Yeah. I grew up right up on corner of Buckman and Moreland Bath. Yeah.
I lived at Tricorn Road.
Yep.
Yeah, did you know, you knew Wales Copy, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the center of town. Did you know, you didn't know Wales Copy, did you?
No.
It just closed down. You don't know it. But, so Karen, she owned it for 47 years or something. And she just retired and sold it. Or she didn't sell it because she didn't own the property. But it was like exactly what you were talking about in terms of the out-of-town news. It was really what we call a third place. So you go into a copy place and you always met somebody. Not a typical thing for a copy place. But that's because Karen was as local as you could get and knew everybody, knew their grandkids, the whole thing. And I definitely heard her talk a lot of times about how Lexington had changed so much, exactly what you're saying. She was, even though she loved everybody who was her customers, she didn't like what had happened to Lexington. I can understand that. I definitely understand what you're saying, even though I didn't experience that. But, that it's like, and this is what's happening everywhere, right? Every place, almost every place that people live where it's an urban setting and highly educated, the second generation or the next generation can afford. Can you imagine people growing up in Manhattan and being able to stay there? Something like that, it's really happening. So I understand. Well, when you were doing that, though, so your parent, did those parents reach out to you? I think the answer is no, but
I wouldn't say they actively reached out to me. They were receptive if, maybe we reached out to them if our kids wanted to go and play with their kids and whatnot. It's fine. Yeah. I know one example is actually my daughter, when she went to kindergarten, one of her initial friend, my daughter was really shy, but there was a girl from Spain. Her dad just moved here for work.
Yeah.
And she went to kindergarten with my daughter, and she didn't speak Spanish. She didn't speak English.
Yeah.
When she came here, my daughter and her were kind of got along because my daughter didn't speak much and she didn't speak English. So that was the initial connection. It was kind of weird. And they lived right around the corner from us. So it was like.
So did she learn Spanish? Your daughter?
She took Spanish through school and whatnot. But it's just like she was quiet, and then this other girl didn't speak English, and they kind of connected because.
Excellent. Miguel.
Yeah.
You don't mind me calling you Miguel?
No, dude, my mother actually calls me that.
She does. I like the way Miguel sounds better than Michael.
Yeah, no. My sister calls me that. My mom calls me that.
Oh, right.
It's definitely a nickname I've gotten accustomed to. So, my story is nothing like yours. You had a nice little piggyback. There was an exterior to an interior duality there. Mine is not that. My story is more about being a dumbass in your early 20s and figuring out the world a little bit. So in college, I had a really good idea. At junior year, I took a Python class, and I'm like, I really want a computer science major. School said, no, you are a junior, you can't switch your major. I'm like, all right, I'll get a minor. Anyway, I got a job out of school, a engineering job, more on the DevOps side of things. And I work with a bunch of Argentinians. And my direct boss was very particular about how she liked things. And as a guy who got not a 4-year education on a subject, didn't necessarily really jive too well. She taught me a lot, but I got my ass kicked for about a year and a half. It was a long journey of consistently self-correcting, having someone above you self-correct, and it was a very interesting learning curve that I had to find. At the end of that year and a half, I thought I was the man, thought I could take on the world, thought I could get any job I wanted to and succeed. And I got a job managing infrastructure for a startup, like one of, maybe, there wasn't, it was like maybe a 6-person company at the time. And it was more of a recommendation through a friend of a friend. And it was a very rude awakening for me, where you are not the doer, you are the planner and the strategizer. Completely different skill set. So again, a year and a half later, completely got the shit kicked out of me on that job too. And I got laid off because I wasn't good at what I was doing, which is fair. I never had done that before. But yeah, it's very much a story of you don't know what you don't know. And until you cross that river, you just don't know what's on the other side of that. Like, after that job, I was completely jobless for about a year and a half. I tried to find a job, couldn't find it. I actually went to go work for a construction company as a project manager. Did that job for about a year. Again, got the shit kicked out of me because I had no idea what I was doing. You know what I mean? So it's you put your best foot forward and you take the skills that you have with you forward. But you never know what is on the other side of that. No matter how much planning that you do, reality will always slap you in the face. So that is the lesson that I've learned through 6 years of my early 20s. And hopefully that'll pay me good going forward.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the Argentine, the woman who was the boss going back, was she Argentinian?
Yeah.
And what was the thing about what did you mean about
she's very particular about how she liked things done.
In what way? In what kind of way, though?
She liked, as a programmer, she liked a certain way her comments were done, and it was just very particular about her file system, right? So if you're thinking about it with humans, right, you put the toilet seat down when you're done using it. It's like type of things like that.
She was anal.
Yes, anal is a good word about it.
Micromanagement.
Yes, micromanagement, but it was more just like when she checked, she was just like, this fucking asshole didn't do it. But I try, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of concepts that you don't know, right? Yeah. So if 90% of something, if someone is going over your head, you'll pick up maybe 10% and you'll do that 10%.
Yeah.
But the rest of the 90% she'll be like, oh, I told you to do that. But if you didn't understand it in the first place, then how the hell? That's not communication, right?
Well, and the other workers were Argentinians?
Yeah.
And they had an easier time understanding it?
Yeah. They also had like years of experience under their belt, right? So it was just a first job, and
Where is she
learn,
now?
right?
We invite her to this event.
Oh.
Where is she?
She's still in Argentina, and she is loving her. I talk to her, every 3 or 4 months. Yeah, I send her a text.
Oh, so you got,
see how she's doing.
Oh, so you guys ended up on good
No,
terms.
no. She's a very. It's weird. Like she's not two-faced, but like you did a good job. I'll put you through 90 feet of shit to give you like a 5%. Like, okay, you did all right. You know what I mean? So when
did it hurt the most? Like when you were out of work for a year and a half, what was that like?
Oh man. That also coupled with when my dad died.
Oh, that's right.
And I got fired for, not being the greatest performer, right? So it was a big hit. It was like, the one dude you went to for advice on things,
your father,
passed away.
Yeah.
And then also, the work that you did previously turned out, it's up to interpretation how you make of it, right? Like, and if you let that interpretation up to the person that fired you, you'd be like, oh, you're a failure, right? So, like, there was a real decent crossroads of, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Right? I literally switched careers and did something else, and I was like, I actually hate this too. So I went back to computer science, which I liked a lot better. So,
yeah. Well, was there a time during that year and a half that you were feeling things weren't going to work out? I mean, kind of worried about it.
I didn't even know. I didn't know what was up. I didn't know what was down. I didn't know how to perform properly. And it was a really good soul-searching time for me to kind of rebuild my confidence and put one building block on one and then another building block on another. And your personal confidence doesn't come from other people, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was saying today, and I think all of us here know that we haven't had things come easy for us. Mm-hmm. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Well, I can relate a lot to actually both aspects of what you did said. So not knowing what you don't know. So I went to computer science from physics. I never had formal computer science education.
Right.
So throughout my pretty successful career as a computer scientist, as a software engineer, which was in the 2000s and the first half of 2010s, I was successful, but I always felt that there are things that I don't know and that I don't even know what they are. And it sucked. And I knew that I couldn't really move to the next level because of that. Mm-hmm. And so this is why I went and did my MBA, because I decided, okay, I want to become a product manager and I want to go on the business side. But at that point, I actually want to know what this shit is about so that I know what people are talking about. So I'd never have this feeling again that I don't know what I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
This is literally why I knew exactly why I did that. And it's ironic that I was not able to go to make product management my career anyway. And I'm still sort of on the technical side. Mm-hmm. So I know exactly how it feels. Mm-hmm. The other thing I know is how it feels to be out of a job, because I literally had an experience of being out of a job for a year and a half a couple of years ago. At my age, with 3 kids that I have to care for, and I was laid off. I was not sort of fired because I didn't know what I was doing, but it wasn't much help because you're out of a job, and the feeling is that you talk to people. It doesn't really matter why. The assumption is that you probably weren't good enough.
Yeah. 100%.
It's like the thing with wives. It's like the same thing that wives about divorce, right? About the wife is assumed to have been the good one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, you were laid off, okay, so someone else was better than you. That's why they weren't laid off. Mm-hmm. And this job market is brutal. It's really hard to find a job, and it's all about connections. So my daughter was actually telling me she had an internship this summer where she worked at HR and specifically in recruiting at a firm in New York.
Oh, nice.
And she told me with a complete astonishment, Dad, it's all about referrals. 100% of their hiring, 100%, not 70, not 80, not 90, 100% of their hiring is referrals.
Yeah, no, it's
through contacts, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's explicit referrals.
You have to know somebody
from the employees.
This leads into what I'm going through now. So I was told about 2 months ago that I was getting laid off as of August 7th.
Wow.
Which was yesterday.
Damn.
Wow.
Anyway, lucky for me, what they did is they could have kept me on until August 7th and then laid me off. But they put me, since they didn't have work, they put me in non-working status. So from June 5th or whatever it was until yesterday, I was getting paid my normal pay to not work.
Mm.
And then as of yesterday, I get paid my unused vacation time, which basically covers August, and I get 8 weeks severance pay because I was there for 4 years. So that would cover September, October.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a pretty good package, and I get to start collecting unemployment apparently starting week after next.
Nice.
So I'm actually making.
I told you about that.
I'm actually making more money unemployed for now. But as I mentioned, I've been working for a landscaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he pays me cash under the table.
Yeah.
He's kind of run low on work, but I'm now working with the farmer that I mentioned. So I have unemployment. I'm prepaid plus an unemployment check. Plus I got these under the table cash deals going on, side gigs. But back to the whole idea of finding a job is like I haven't been applying aggressively because it's not urgent.
Right.
And I want to do something that I'm going to be happy with. So I'm only selectively applying. I applied to one place, a number of jobs, over the last couple months, a number of jobs there. And it's like, I haven't heard anything. I'm trying to wonder, but my job, it's still listed on the thing. It's application received. So it's like, are they hiring? Are they not?
Yes.
But
the worst.
I got one email from a recruiter the other day, and they asked me, like, do you have experience with, I think it's VPM? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So it's like, what he's saying is that, like,
I don't even know what that is.
What is it?
I have no idea.
You know
what
it is?
It was VPN.
What I don't know. That's what you're saying is you don't know. Just all the stuff you don't know.
Right, exactly.
I don't know
100%.
this. I had my jobs, and they were just like, this is what my job was, and I could do it well, but now I'm going out in the world, they're asking for all this experience. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about unless I have experience with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going out in this job market with, like, I read the job description, like, I'm not qualified. Like, all right, I don't even know what that is.
Right.
And if I'm on LinkedIn, and a lot of times it says, like, 100 people have clicked apply, and, like, I don't stand a chance. And sometimes it even has a breakdown of, like, the people that have applied, like, 14% have a bachelor's degree. 38% have a master's degree. I only have a bachelor's. So I see the breakdown. All these people have masters or other degrees and other experience. Or
PhD.
These people are senior levels or they're manager levels. I'm just like your average run-of-the-mill worker. I'm not up there. So it's like, I'm looking at these jobs where I'm probably capable of doing it. Yeah. But I'm not going to get the job because I'm so underqualified on paper. Right. And I don't have the experience, even though I'm probably more capable than a lot of them.
Right. Like, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to tell a story about work, about job situation. It totally didn't work out, of course, right? What if I said I have a job situation that worked perfectly? No, ridiculous. So, I had always wanted to be involved in media. And I had done stuff in college where I wrote sort of freelance stuff, and I got involved a little bit in radio, but not like a full-time job. And so then I was out in the West Coast, and I could have started this program for radio production. Well, no, it was a professional program to be involved in radio. Radio was my favorite medium by far. And my father, who had been high level in broadcast world, not on the technical side, but he had worked for the FCC way at the top. And then he became a professor of communications and a lot of stuff. And he knew, he wasn't a wheeler dealer, but he knew some high level people in the broadcast field. So anyway, he told me not to go to this program. It was a private program. It might have been a ripoff. Who knows? So he said, come back here to the East Coast. And they were living in Boston. And he said he could get me a job with Westinghouse Broadcasting. So Westinghouse used to have a broadcast system with a number of affiliates, number of stations. So, of course, I wanted, since I was coming back to Boston, I thought they would sign me up with WBZ, which was a Westinghouse station. It was a very prominent TV station for years in Boston. But instead, they assigned me to KYW-TV in Philadelphia. All right. I didn't know anything about Philly. It's not a bad place, as it turns out. But I was at such a disadvantage in so many ways. So I come in the first day, and the guy who's the new news director, I went into TV. That's right. Before that happened, I had this long discussion with the guy at Central Headquarters in New York. And I feel okay to say this. Can I say this? There was a character in some Kurt Vonnegut novel that was like a robot. I can't remember. Because he just used, I didn't know anything about corporate language. He only talked in corporate language. Only. So he was my contact person, up there. And he insisted I go into TV rather than radio. This is before I started. And I said, no, but I want radio. And he said, no, but you can always go from TV to radio, but not the other way, blah, blah, blah. And I had to accept what he said. I didn't want to. So I get there the first day. The news director in the TV side is a guy who very, very new in that field, but he had been a journalist and an editor at the Washington Post. So he's a pretty educated guy. He didn't even know I was coming. So I was hired for this 9-month paid internship, professional internship. He did not know I was arriving. Go figure. Okay, it's worse than the Argentinians. So anyway, and he was an arrogant guy. I could see that right away. So he also knew something that we're going to get to in a moment that really tells the story. So he signs me to something that was completely the opposite of anything I'd be good at. It was about organizing these videotapes. There were all these video. In other words, he was just telling me to fuck off. So the only thing I got to do that was kind of fun was be at what's called the assignment desk, where you kind of assign stories, and there was a lot of action in the assignment desk with calls coming in and so forth. One day there was a call. This kind of gets to the next point. One day there was a call, although this happened a little later, from a guy you guys know of in Los Angeles named Arnold what?
Schwarzenegger?
Yes. Call from Arnold Schwarzenegger because Arnold's fiance, they weren't married yet, had gotten the same position as me and started about 3 weeks after me. They rolled out like 100 red carpets for her. 100. Maybe 101. And so she was like celebrated totally. It was just fucking absurd. I can't remember her name. What's the name of? Does anybody remember her name? She became pretty famous in broadcasting. I thought at the time that she was just an overweight girl from Georgetown. But she had graduated Georgetown College. But so I didn't get close to her. So the only people that I liked, I did finish out the 9 months, were the working class guys who worked, and they were the editors, they were the cameramen, they were the sound people, and they had their own little space, and they had their own kind of place they hung out in the news department. And they were always cynical. It was like cops. Cops have this great black sense of humor that is wonderful. That's what these guys had, exactly. They were making fun of everything that was being broadcast because it was shit. The thing was that news director guy, he saw this stuff as toys because he had not had any experience with the new stuff that had just come out. Like, for example, what had just come out was the whole satellite thing where you could do, it's like live streaming. They started doing, the whole point of the day was to figure out what was going to be the first news item at the 6 o'clock news. And it had to be done live. And it had to be anything that you could put on, even if it was fucking stupid. So one time, this is a true story, one time I was out with a crew, and I wasn't the reporter. That was the other thing. I wanted to be a reporter if I'm going to stay with this. And they wouldn't let me do that, da-da-da. So I went out with this reporter, and there was supposedly fires in the New Jersey Barrens, which is this, does anybody know about that? New Jersey has this whole area that's like the remains of a forest or something. It's just like out in the middle of nowhere. It's close to Philly. Mm-hmm. So by the time we got there, the fire had pretty much subsided, almost completely. And the 6 o'clock time is coming up where they're going to do a live broadcast from the opening up the 6 o'clock thing. Mm-hmm. There was almost no fire. What do you think they did?
They lit up. Did they actually lit up the fire?
Yes, they did.
Oh my God!
They actually, they took. I don't know. What would you spray on it to?
Like hairspray? A little match on it.
So there was some really strange things like that. So at the end of the 9 months, I had a lot of discussions with the news director. So the station manager. It was a total elitist who had gone to Harvard. It was an ass, right? And there was one guy. This is amazing. There was a guy who spoke 7 languages. He was a reporter. He had been with maybe CBS News in Germany or something like that, and they were assigning him to cover fires. This was a guy who had international experience.
Oh my God.
And they were signing him to do stupid shit. And then there was this one guy named Matt Quinn, I still remember his name, really, really brilliant Irish guy. He wanted to do really investigative reporting. Mm-hmm. And that was the fantasy at the time, because Bernstein and Woodward on Watergate, the whole celebration of investigative reporting was a big deal. And I thought maybe I could get into that. And Matt Quinn was going to do this whole investigation about the major bank in Philadelphia. I forgot the name of it. And of course, it was killed by the station manager. Why? The relationship with the bank. Go figure. So the thing is, at the end of 9 months, okay, as much conflict as you saw as happened, you would think that I would have gotten fired or something like that. But instead, I don't know whether they were forced to do this. They were offering me a job, but not at that station, but another Westinghouse broadcasting station in Baltimore. Now, I'd grown up originally in D.C. area, so I knew a little about Baltimore, but I didn't want to go. I wanted to get back to Boston and do WBZ. Mm-hmm. So they said you could be involved as a producer with a daytime, like a daytime women's show or something. What do we call it? What do you call those like daytime, ridiculous shows? But it may be, and I'm going to put you guys in charge of investigating this, researching this. It may be that it was Oprah Winfrey. Uh-huh. It may be that it was the first show of Oprah Winfrey. They wouldn't tell me in Baltimore. They wouldn't tell me. This is way back. This is 1978. Wow. Okay. They wouldn't tell me what it was. They just said it's a daytime. Maybe they said women's program, something like that. And I turned it down. I left and went back to Boston. And I tried to get a job at BZ, and some people knew me and didn't get it. Damn. And so, I've always still, continued interest in media and so forth. Mm-hmm. And Johans knows how talented I am, but it's just like anything else. Yeah, definitely out of the Philly experience was living with a family that I became close to. But It's the idea that they're telling you that it's just like you guys said. You don't know what you don't know. I had no idea that they were going to be this fucked up.
Right.
Oh, and there's one other thing. I'm sorry. So after 3 weeks that I was at the TV station, I got to know all the guys in radio. They were they had 24/7 all news radio, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a really high rated radio side. The TV side was a piece of shit on the news department. The radio side was highly respected. They actually had people who were specialists. Somebody's covering City Hall, another one's covering the police, that kind of stuff. And the guys running it were these really smart Jewish guys I had a lot in common with. So I said, I want to come over to your side. I mean, I knew right away. And they looked in it and they said it was too late because I'd already been there 3 weeks on the other side. It was too late to switch. That was a big disappointment.
Yeah.
That was a big disappointment. And there were other absurd things that happened. Some of them were funny and I can't remember them all. But it's just, there's so many people who have jobs that they shouldn't. The guy who had that news director job, it was bullshit. And I couldn't, even though I showed him, I did a pilot tape. I did a tape that was edited of me covering a story. That was a story. It was kind and I showed it to him. He didn't give me any response. That kind of thing. So you just get frustrated as hell. And disillusioned. Totally disillusioned. Anyway, so how do I end that story with a fun way? Oprah Winfrey is still waiting for me.